Hello there and welcome to the 7th video in a tutorial series on how to make an endless runner game in Unity 6 for mobile devices. In this tutorial we'll be adding some UI on our screen to show the amount of coins we've collected. Remember to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with every tutorial I upload. Feel free to leave a comment and drop a like. So we have the coins all set in place and they do the animation as per usual, and we've dealt with some UI before, so we're going to kind of backtrack a little bit and investigate a bit more about the UI, because we briefly touched on these buttons down here which are UI, but we didn't specifically talk about something called the canvas. Now I want to talk about this canvas just a little bit more before we start displaying any UI, because it's kind of important to take a look at it and understand what it actually is doing. So the canvas, if I double click it, is an overlay that is on top of everything else on the screen, which is why we always see the left and right buttons here on top. And we can actually use this to our advantage to basically align it to the same screen size. So if we were to have it as, let's say, a standard mobile device in a whatever resolution, like you could do a 1080 resolution but on its side. So what you would need to do is set up the canvas to be that way. And to do that you need to go down here to Canvas Scaler, change the scale mode to scale with screen size, and then let's change it to 1080 by 1920. And then we need to match the width or height. Instead of actually clicking anything else, we need to match it. So keep it as match width or height and set it to exactly 0.5. And what that will do is it will match it exactly as it is seen. So you can see that these left and right buttons have gotten much smaller. So we now need to increase their size. So we can do that by clicking on left move, choosing the rect tool, and let's increase this size to be about there. And let's now go to the text. And let's replace the word left with some left facing arrows. And let's increase the font size on there to maybe 120. Maybe that's a bit too small still, maybe 200. There we go, we'll have it bold. And let's have the colour slightly alpha. So maybe 130 on the alpha. What that means is it is going to be somewhat see-through. And I want the same to be the case for the button as well. So if we go to the left move button and let's change the normal colour to have the alpha as, let's say, 50. And let's have the highlighted also as 50. Same with the pressed colour, 50. And selected also 50 on the alpha. Now you can naturally change these if you want to, but let's also do the same for the right move button. And if we go on to there and set the same, so we can say 50, and let's say 50, and 50 there, and I think we're already on 50, so yep, that should be fine. We now need to increase the size, so we'll make it the same sort of size as left move. So what we can do is we can see that it is currently in center, but what we need to do is click on this anchoring position and move it to the bottom left. And now we need to select the right move button and drag there so as it snaps together. And you can drag it over on top of the left move button and make it exactly the same size, like so, and then move it this way to there. And let's set the anchoring position to the bottom right. Now the anchoring position means that whenever you move the screen, the UI will scale with that screen. So it'll always stay in this position down here. And I think they are a bit too opaque at the moment, so we might change that a little later on. But let's also set 3 arrows there. Let's set it to 200, just like the other. So font size, 200, bold. And let's have the vertex color as 130 on the alpha. So if I press play now, these buttons will still function the exact same way as they previously did, but obviously they're more aligned with what we're trying to create here. So if we start the game up, you can see we can still move. So I think what we'll do is maybe decrease it just a little bit more, because I think having it as 50 is a bit much. So maybe we should have it as 25. In fact, no, we'll set it as 50 on the main color. There we go. And let's go to right move. So color, source, 50. And let's play around with the text a bit more, actually. Maybe we need to have it actually... Should we have it white, maybe? I think white might be a little better. So let's have 150. And let's have white and 150. Okay, so we're starting to come into our own now with how this is starting to be placed. And I guess it's up to you how you want to have the left and right buttons. Like if you want to change both at the same time, you could hold control, press left move and right move. Use the rect tool and just kind of maybe bring them down a touch, like so. So we'll leave that as it is. Next thing we need to do is let's add a bar at the top where we can have some stats for our game. So let's go to Game Object, let's go to UI, and let's go to Raw Image. Now, this is not necessarily an image, but it's called a raw image, but it can be anything you want it to be in terms of UI. So let's just call this stat bar. And I'm going to set the color as a very deep kind of gray color. And I'm going to set the anchoring here as stretch top. So I want this to always be stretched along the top bar up here. So then what I can do is if I move it up here, you'll see that I can snap it to the top. That means it will always start here. And if I drag it across to round about there, it will snap to the edge here. Now this is another thing I kind of want to point out with Unity. You might see a little gap there, even though it is right on the edge. Don't worry about this little gap that you can see there, that 1 pixel line. That will disappear when the game is built. It's just the way it kind of renders in Unity. Let's make this about there. You could also set the position exactly rather than have these numbers here. So you could say left is 0, Y is -80, right is 0, and height we'll also have as 150. And then you can kind of snap it into whatever position you want. Let's change the color on the alpha down to 150 so it is somewhat see-through. And this is going to represent our bar where we're going to have the coin. So let's now add in something for the coin. So let's add in some text. So if we go to Game Object, go to UI, and let's go to Text, Text Mesh Pro. And this functions the same way as the button text. So let's call this coin display. Let's double click and let's set this as 0 on the text, and let's have the font style as bold, and let's have the size as 100. Is that too big, too small? I think we're okay with that. It does mean we need to increase the size, so we can drag like so. And now let's bring it up to the top so it overlays up here. There we go. And let's set the anchoring position that we always want it to be top center. So it means it will always stay in this position, whatever scale size the screen is. And I guess we can play around a little bit with this display if you want to. You could change the color gradient, you can override it, you can change its alignment and all that kind of stuff. Standard, it's very standard, this stuff. So play around with this text how you want it to be. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to make it so this number changes whenever we pick up a coin. How do we do that? Well, we do it inside our script. And we're going to create a separate script now that will kind of control the UI elements of this top bar. So let's go to our scripts folder. Let's right click, create, mono behavior script, and we'll call this stat control. And let's open that up in Visual Studio. So the way this is going to work is it's going to be like a master control script that is going to contain the code that updates the text. And whenever we collect a coin, it tells this particular code line to say, hey, update, because we've collected a coin. So to do that, what we need to do is start by saying for a variable. That variable is going to be the current coin count. And the way we declare it is going to be slightly different. We're going to say public static int coin count semicolon. Now, why have we declared this variable completely different than we have previously? Well, we need to be able to access this variable from other scripts. So whenever we collect a coin in CoinWorks, we can then say update this particular variable, because if it wasn't static, for example, we wouldn't be able to update it. The next variable that we're going to update is going to be the text on screen itself. So we can say serialize field. This is a game object, and this will be, I'll just call it text box. So what this is going to do is in void update, we need to make sure that that text box always says the current coin count. So we can say text box dot get component, and in spiky brackets tm pro, obviously text mesh pro, dot tmp underscore text, and then close spiky bracket, then your parentheses dot text. Now to quickly recap, what we've done here is we are attempting to access, if I go to the text box itself, we are attempting to access this section right here. And obviously because it's Text Mesh Pro, we know exactly how to do it with this code. So this is saying get the component right here for Text Mesh Pro, and we're going to modify the text. And we say the text is equal to double quote and then plus coin count semicolon. Now the reason we do this here is because this particular text box is expecting text. However, we've declared coin count as an integer. So we need to fool the text box in thinking that actually this is text. That's why we put this double quote here. And then we can add anything else that we want to it. So in this case, we're adding the coin count. So if I get rid of the annotations and void start and then save that script, when we head back to Unity and apply this to a game object, you'll notice something slightly different with how that script is behaving as a component. So once this has compiled the script, Unity knows what it's doing. What we'll do is we will go to game object and we will add, oh, it's still thinking, there we go, create empty. And what I'm going to do is call this master control. And I'm going to drag this game object all the way to the top for easy access. We'll put it just below global volume. And then we'll drag and drop the stack control onto master control. And you'll see that we only have one variable there. What happened to the other one? Well, when it's declared as a public static integer, whatever, it doesn't appear here. There is a way to make it appear there if you want to. And the way to do that is you declare another variable. So if we go below the text box declaration, we can say serialize field int, and we'll call it internal coin count semicolon. And then in void update, we can say internal coin count equals coin count, and resave that script and head back into Unity. And you'll see that variable appear right here. And what that means is that we can visibly see in the inspector panel when that number now changes. It's not strictly necessary to do that, but I guess it's just a way that you could see it if you wanted to. There we can see internal coin count. Next thing to do is we need to declare this text box and tell this script what is the right game object to use. For us, it is coin display. So we can drag and drop coin display into this text box right here. So at this point, the script is ready to update this text whenever we collect a coin, but we've got to go to our CoinWorks script now to tell it to add a coin. And we do that whenever we go into the trigger right here. So where we have collected coin equals true, let's go below that and let's say stat control dot coin count plus equals 1, semicolon, and save. So what that will do is when this line of code runs, it will seek out this script, stat control, it will access the coin count variable, and it will add 1 to whatever it is currently equal to. So let's say we've got 10 coins in a level, it'll just add 1 each and every time. So if we go back into Unity, give it a moment just to compile, and then if we press play, we'll be able to see this go up whenever we collect coins. And obviously you could take a bit more time and make this look better than what it does here for me. I've just kind of rushed through it. You should always take more time than what I do whenever I build these things. But fundamentally, it's going to work no matter what, because this is ready to accept anything that the coins send at it. So here we go. There we go. And you can see that's working just fine. So it constantly updates. And obviously when the game stops, it doesn't save, but that's not important. The idea is we have this now ability to kind of run and collect these coins, and it displays up here. So next tutorial, what we'll do is we'll add some sound effects to these coins. So we have like a cling sound whenever we collect them. And we'll also add some background music to this to make it feel like it's coming together as an actual game. Remember to subscribe and click notification bell to stay up to date with every tutorial still to come in this series, and I'll see you next time.